Hey guys, what's going on? Hey Dan, Dominic, Shaden Rogers. That's a new name. Shaden, are you a player? Anyway, we'll let everybody jump in here. Hopefully soon. There he is, John Frazier. How are you? Caleb Maston back again. We'll let the crowd build here a little bit. Some good activity here. I just did the one little video yesterday. I'm gonna try to post every day. I think it's pretty important for you guys to get something every day, no matter what. So, just trying to keep up with all the activity. It is a slow time of month or slow time of year for high school basketball. Football's kicked off, and no pun intended. And so a lot of stuff going on there. But yeah, we've got. Let's see. I had a list of stuff that I wanted to kind of go through, put out there. I did see our friends at Davis and Elkins is they're having an athlete open house, and I'm assuming this is for men's and women's sports. That is September 12th. They are having the women's basketball program is having an elite camp that day as well afterwards. So good opportunity there. I'd like to see as many of those elite camps. We've seen what it's done for some of the some of the boys in the state that get recognized when they get on campus there. So that's a good deal. Tays Valley Christian, they have announced that they are going to be part of the grind session. For those of you, that's kind of a prep school showcase circuit kind of thing that's in season, if you will. Pretty high profile players, high profile teams that participate in that. That's a pretty cool thing that they can, that they're financially able to swing that. That's it's probably a pretty big burden to do all the logistics and travel for that, but good for them. Not sure about I don't remember if Huntington Prep, of course, the Huntington Prep national team will be on there. The Expressions Prep post grad team, I'm not sure if I think they've been in the grind session before. One of you might know that. John, do you know that? Is the Expressions Prep post grad program usually okay? So from the Panhandle, just national. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. From the Panhandle, Bryson Harris, one of the players that we had at the Hoop Summit, Kaiser's top player, he transferred out of state to Bishop Walsh. Bishop Walsh is a prep school, high school, that attracts kids from, I think they're probably more well-known for football than they are anything else. But anyway, so he's heading to Bishop Walsh. I believe that is just right across the border in Maryland. So he'll be there for basketball this year. He's a 2027. Performed pretty well at the Hoop Summit, and I know has some D3 schools there interested. So, John, update on your son was one of the guys I wanted to update everybody on. Okay. You give me the list of events that he's got coming up. Joel Frazier, the 6'3" guard from who will be playing for Capital High School this coming winter, and he'll be at the CP3 Rising Stars the USA Gold Camp in Nebraska, the Big Shots All Star Weekend, as well as the Elite 60. Also on campus at UT Martin, and also the Tony Biancardi camp. So, John kind of, I told John earlier today that there's so many, and most of you probably understand this, there's so many of those camps out there, those types of events. It's hard to sift through all of them and kind of know, what's real, what's legit, and I don't mean that in a sense of like, they're going to steal your money and not have an event, but how much stroke do these people really have when they have something like this? And like John talked about, some of these have influence on national rankings, and probably a lot of them say that, but I kind of depend on John because he's kind of vetted all this stuff already. Go where you see results. Go, yeah, that's it. That's just that's a perfect perfect line there, John. That's because it's exactly right. And if like John does, and I'm talking about Coach John Fraser, Joel's dad. If your basketball circle is big enough, you can reach out to the right people and say, hey, what are these? What are these things that where should we go? What is legit? Where are we going to get the most traction? Where are we going to get the most publication? In nationally, all those types of things. So all that's important. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the connections in the the network that somebody like Coach Frazier does, or even somebody like me. And I get the same question from a lot of parents. Especially during the spring and summer when kids are getting invited to individual camps or elite camps, whatever have you. And there's a lot coming up here in this fall, locally, regionally, I should say. And so I get a lot of those questions, asking me, should they go? Should they not go? Are they, is it legit? Is it a money grab? I truly believe the guys, like the MEC schools, the Bethany's, the Waynesburgs, the Washington Jeffersons. I'm not sure if they have one, but these guys, I've got to know everybody well enough. And actually, Isaiah just heard from Concord. Finally, they reached out to him, and they apologized they couldn't get anybody up to the Hoop Summit. But anyway, back on track here. I really believe that most of them are looking for kids in state. But also realize, these colleges, they're built on enrollment, and part of that is to get kids on campus to want to go to school there, whether they play sports or not. And I don't have a problem with that. That's not. I don't feel like that's a shady deal. I mean, you get to go. You get to go see the campus if you choose. And it just, that's the business these folks are in. It's not always basketball business. Sometimes it's just business. And I don't slight any of the schools for, using that as part of their business model. It's, it is what it is. And given to, a lot of the schools have developmental rosters, JV rosters, if you will. A lot of the MEC schools have, those expanded rosters out to 25 or 30 kids. And this is also where they get a lot of those kids, from that. So, and there's some value in it. For the parents, because that may be the only opportunity that your kid gets. So, I don't slight them for doing that, because even a developmental player, they still need to see you in person. They still need to make sure you can run both ends of the floor and maybe make a layup or whatever their criteria may be. They need to see it. So, and there are kids that will once in a while come out of those developmental programs and make the varsity by their junior or senior year and get a minute here or there. So again, I don't slight them for that. you're not going to get when you go to those camps. Don't expect to to be a lot of media there. Don't expect to for there to be a lot of um, kind of hoopla surrounding it. Like it just is what it is. It's go in, work, show what you need to show, and and pack up and go home. That's really it. So I know Concord has theirs coming up. They reached out to us, and I hope I have. I hope I saved that. I'm not sure where it's at. But Concord is having their event. I have to go back and look. Um, Having their event, I believe, in September. I want to say September 18th. So they're having their elite camp. Coach Richardson up in Wheeling has his in September at some point. And who else is left? John, help me out because you probably know this. Can't remember. Dom, you or Vic, you might know what else is left as far as on campus elite camps. Who else is left? But a lot of them have already ran through. I'm not sure. Wesleyan might have one in October. I'm thinking there's one more that I'm not thinking of. Maybe University of Charleston has one coming up. But anyway, West Virginia State just had theirs. So anyway, that's that those things are. I just think they're great. I think and I think they all get pretty well supported as far as players go. So it's a good deal. Yeah, Wesleyan, Wesleyan UC. John says, so that's legit. Those are UC's definitely has some West Virginia guys on the roster. Probably we'll see more of those guys trickle into some. They are legit camps, John. Probably should see a couple more of those West Virginia guys matriculate into playing a lot more minutes week to game to game, week to week throughout this upcoming season. So looking forward to that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Kevin Bryson Harris. I thought it was cool. Ain't gonna lie, I was kind of disappointed that West Virginia Tech didn't have a coach available to show up to the Hoop Summit because they recruit and have so many guys, West Virginia guys, on their roster, especially here lately. But I saw where they announced their assistant coaching staff, so they expanded their coaching staff literally from 2 to 5 overnight, and it's some names that you'll recognize. Of course, Benitez Jackson is there. Coach Jackson, who came from Oak Hill High School. And then his brother Cornelius is the head coach at Marshall. Luke Voss is also, I believe he is a local guy from there. Breland Walton is definitely a local guy. He's kind of a local legend there. And I'm sure John knows him well. Local guy was, okay, Tez was on. Yeah. Gotcha. And Breland Walton has been added to the staff. He's new. He was formerly at Davis and Elkins, and I think didn't coach anywhere last year, so he's back on staff there. That's a great Breland, and big kudos to him. Breland, I think, is going to be the guy that really, really scours West Virginia. From the couple conversations that I've ever had with him, he really, really believes in the talent in West Virginia. And there's so many kids that I think are such good fits that, at West Virginia Tech and that can play in that River States Conference. And if you guys don't know, West Virginia Tech is our lone NAIA school in West Virginia. So, that's huge. And also, I have to look. Nathan Daniels is the fourth coach that they've named. So good for them. That's good stuff coming up. Tryouts. We got lots of AAU tryouts. It looks like they're rolling around. West Virginia Rain for the boys. Yes, for the boys, classes 2027 to 2035. That's October 11th. And then they are rolling out, they're actually rolling back out. Coach Newsom is rolling back out the Lady Rain tryouts for class of 2035. And that's in October as well. I don't think they've got an exact date, which is really, really cool because those of you that are old enough to remember, the West Virginia Rain is the oldest AAU organization in West Virginia. I think that's still active, and they actually started. Coach Newsom actually, yeah, you're right. Coach News doesn't get enough credit. He actually started that as with Corey Hines, who Corey is the head coach for the women's basketball program at Salem University right now. So he and Corey Hines started this organization way back when, 21, 22 years ago. And it was actually started for girls basketball. So it's since, transitioned into boys. And, the girls are, that's a weird space. It's tough. That's a tough nut to crack to try to get into the girls because, you've got the Thunder down, in the South, and you've got then you've got the, a lot of girls that go up into Pittsburgh with the Bruins and those organizations up there. So, it's tough. That takes, pretty much the top probably 10 girls out of West Virginia. And a lot of the other girls, I don't know if they're just not active. I don't know, but kudos to Coach Newsom for, kind of busting that back out. And I do think that's the right way to do it, is not start with the high school girls, but try to build with those younger classes and keep them together up through. I think that's probably a smart marketing move. And I may have missed this. I just got a text from Dan Moore anyway. I should have asked him, but August 23rd, West Virginia Hustle, Lady West Virginia Hustle tryouts. And I don't know, John, do you know, like, did they have, or Vic, did they have girls? If they had girls program this year, I didn't know about it, but is what it is. Let's see, what else? Jaden Castillo. See, he's going to post-grad at Expressions Prep. For those of you that know Brian Shaw, Coach Brian Shaw, he's been on the podcast before. He was on the Pure Prospects podcast last night. You can hop over onto, I believe, onto the Substack there for Pure Prospects and check that out. He's a guy that loves West Virginia kids. He sent me his recruiting list of guys that he was actively recruiting, guys that he needed to see and follow up with, and then guys that he wanted to see, hadn't seen yet. It was huge. It was probably a list of 70, 80 names. So, he's one of the guys that, and not just him, but Bethany in general, that when they recruit, when I say they recruit West Virginia, they really recruit West Virginia. So, and he's got some other, I know there's some other offers that are probably going to go out. They offered CJ Waller off of the heels of the Hoop Summit there on August 2nd. So that was pretty cool. I'm not sure if that was, their first time seeing him or something they were just trying to follow up on, because they are very active in Eastern Kentucky as well. So you can hop over there, see his interview. You can go back and look at, and you can actually go to our YouTube where everything's free. You've got free access for all of the podcasts, all of the videos here automatically upload to YouTube. But my interview, my podcast with Coach Shaw should be on there. You should be able to find that. He's an interesting guy to listen to. One of the good young coaches. He works hard, hustles hard to recruit the guys that he wants. So I appreciate guys like that. Micah Green. Let me bring up Micah Green, 6'9", 2027, from Martinsburg. Um, really looks much, much better this year. We saw him last year. I didn't see him in person last year, but Isaiah, my partner Isaiah, saw him at team camp in Morgantown in June, and he told me he looks different. He's a different kid. Welcome in, Marshall. He's just a different kid, and you know, really cool to see a kid really improve himself. And he's improved his body, trimmed down, looks more like a man than a kid, which is kind of scary for the EPAC this year. But Micah is going on, I believe, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe his first official visit. It is to Westminster, who Danny Zuchak is the assistant coach there. Danny confirmed that yesterday. I think this is the first like real interest that Micah has got, which is amazing for a kid that's 6'9". It is pretty crazy. As many calls and texts and things that I get for people looking for bigs, and here's a kid that's there at 6'9", that nobody has any serious interest in yet. And I know he's got things to work on, as does every kid when they're going into their senior year. Nobody's a part of that is you got to do some development with them when they get them on campus. But Coach Zuchak, he's not afraid to do that. He'll take that chance any day with a kid with that kind of size. Last little bit of news, looks like on the WVU front, looks like Brennan Laureate has been ruled by a judge to be eligible for WVU this year for this 5th year. So good for WVU. They definitely need that boost. Let's see. Trying to find here. Guys, just give me a minute. We're gonna have. I had Dawn Sprouse scheduled for for a podcast this morning, and I literally forgot about it. So I told him, why don't you just hop on here? I'm not sure I can get him invited though. I'm gonna try. Okay, I'm gonna try this again, Dominic. So tell me some news, guys. What do you think? What's going on? Anything in the world of basketball that you might want to talk about? Yeah, I should have thought this out a little bit better. Let's see. That's not him. Dominic, I am having trouble figuring out how to get you to join. But anyway, Marshall, okay. I had a parent call me yesterday and ask about. I think this is the region placement for trip. Yeah, John. I really think. I think we're going to end up seeing everything go to two regions. I don't think they have any choice. I think it's silly at this point to not just put every class. I don't know what you think about that. Every class, north and south, and play it out. I've kind of thought that for a while, that the regionals need to be bigger. I think I've always had this crazy idea that they could make regionals a bigger deal. That you could make it, and I've always thought that for football too. I thought they could take the semifinals, put them at a really cool, um, just like Kentucky. Yeah, I I always thought they could make regional stuff a bigger deal. The SSAC could. Now, I I won't talk about the SSAC anymore, but I think they have an opportunity to make it a bigger deal. To do some sort of something regionally where they bring everybody together and play it out. Um, and really go from there. I think there's an opportunity to do that. I don't know exactly what the answer is. Where you should do it, when you should do it, all those things. But I do think there's an opportunity there to make it pretty cool. Because right now it's everybody. There's just and I think that takes. I think you'll agree. Everybody would agree. I think it takes. Um, I think it takes a lot of the question out of it, like who belongs where. Who like we don't have enough teams to support really having regions, other than maybe two. With all the fewer teams, you got 30-ish teams in each division. Like there's no real value in breaking that down into even four regions. I just don't. I just think it's silly at this point. And like John said, the AAA stuff is just what are we doing? I mean, what are we doing? I mean, who looked at that at the SSAC office? Whether it was the people that work there full time, or whether it's the principals or who looked at that and thought that was a good idea. I just don't. I mean, I try like heck to try to be fans, to be cordial to the stuff that the SSAC does, despite them, keeping me off of press row last year. I really do. But man, some of the things that they do, I just you can't help but shake your head. You really can't. Um, so good. That's a good point to bring up, John. That is a head scratcher, and I think after this year, I mean, in the SSAC principals and ads had to have, I guess, had to have agreed to that. I don't know. Yeah, Sweet 16 in Charleston, call it a day. I think you can go one step further. My thought on this, John, is, and this is football and basketball, is you do a big, like for football. This was you do like all four classes. Maybe you do single A, 4A on Friday, semifinals. Maybe you do this at, I'm just throw anything out there, Glenville. Not the easiest place to get to, but just for hypothetically speaking. They play on Friday. You have two games back to back. One starts at 5, then the other one starts at 8 or 8:30. And then Saturday you do double A, triple A, and that's your semifinals. Or maybe you do two of those down south, depending on, there are, despite the lack of numbers with the number of schools, we do have at that time of year there are facilities available. Other than Laidley Field or wherever. West Virginia State has a beautiful football facility. I'm just thinking outside of Glenville's is going to be one of maybe the second nice facility when it's all said and done. You got Shepherd over in the Eastern Panhandle. You've got who else? Trying to think of where else. But yeah, like I said, you've got Parkersburg. Both of the Parkersburg facilities are really nice and big enough to have something like that. So you'd have to have it somewhere. Morgantown High School is probably really close to being that. You've got Fairmont. It's a good facility, but bleachers on one side, not really conducive to having a semifinals kind of event there. But anyway, and to your point, John. I I would do a big regional event where you had all the teams. So you've got, let's just say 16, you'll have 16 North, 16 South, and you just play it out. You just play it out over the course of a week, and you go into, um, you take the final four or whatever, and it would only take a couple of days, and you send them to Charleston. But I would package it, like let's say the North, let's say they play at Wheeling, the Civic Center in Wheeling. But I would package it like that. I would have the North, um, you know, maybe all classes, go to one place where the media can cover everything. Um, and because that's the problem with you, even today, the news travels so slow because we've got everything spread out in all these different little locations. I mean, look at football. Look at some of these. We still don't have cell service at some of these fields where we got. We just. I mean, it's just a mess to me. I think the kids are so much better served to have an event where it's centrally located. Maybe not centrally, but neutral. A neutral site where you have multiple games where media and even college coaches or scouts, whatever have you, they have some incentive to be there and scout and cover that event, rather than trying to see this kid over here, that kid over there, yada yada yada. Because it does happen. That does happen. I get calls. I mentioned on my last video, not the last video, but the last live. I get calls throughout the year and text people trying to track these kids down where they're playing, and I'm shelling out, YouTube links and NFHS links, like crazy, huddle links, to let these coaches, see these kids play, and it's going to kind of drive them nuts, to drive. So I think you could put everybody in one place and play in a central location and in a neutral location, and I think you can make a big event of it. Just my, that's my 2 cents. Maybe that's nuts. Maybe it's not even logistically possible. I don't know. I hear all the time, well, everybody's going to travel. Well, you wouldn't hesitate to pack up and travel to Charleston. Why would you hesitate to, if you live in Wheeling and let's say the neutral site is Fairmont State, the Feaster Center at Fairmont State, and would you hesitate to travel? Why would you hesitate to travel there? I mean, especially for an event like that that's juiced up and it's got a lot of media coverage, got a lot of I just think that's I just think it's an opportunity that we're missing out on for sure. Dom, I'm still trying to figure out how to pop you in here. I got to send an invite, but your name does not pop up, and I don't understand that. Almost everybody else is on here does, but yours. I guess we can record something on our own there afterwards, but anyway. What else we got going on, fellas, guys, women, ladies? Eric, thanks for jumping in here. Sweet 16. Yeah. And I wouldn't mind that either, John. I mean, my gosh, we're there for a week already, so I have heard some people talk about there's an idea out there, and this would kind of go along with my regional idea if they did it, but mine would make more sense if they did this, but to where there's talk about Charleston only taking the top 4 teams instead of 8 and incorporating for the sake of saving money which I get. I don't mind that for the sake of saving money. Integrating the girls and the boys tournaments into the same week. Um, what's people's thought on that? That will probably draw some harsh criticism from some, but there's some people who would probably enjoy that. I wouldn't mind it, you know. I wouldn't mind it, and I should say this: I wouldn't mind it if um, I wouldn't mind it if there was a bigger, more notable regional event. I'll put it that way. I think we owe it to the kids to do that if we cut it down to four, and I don't mind cutting it down to four. I think it would be. I think it would still be, really, really entertaining. Still a really good week of basketball, but I'm not sure that'll ever happen. But if the crowds and the price, of the rent for the state tournament, that like they do have costs that are, they do have a ticket there that an invoice for that rent. So, you know, is what it is. So what I'm saying is, if the SSAC did decide to do that, I mean, I understand it. I wouldn't criticize them for it, only if they didn't do anything with the regions, because then those if you get down to four, those regionals mean a lot more, So, but yeah, the other things I wanted to, um, yeah, Dom, if you're listening, we'll just record afterwards here. We'll wrap this up about 1 o'clock, and we'll record afterwards if we can. Um, Marshall Summers is in here. I'm going to have Marshall on as well. Eric Jackson's in here. We'll try to have Chandler on as well. I'm trying to get as many of the 2027s on as we can. That's what my drive is going to be here up until season, and try to get as many of the 2027 kids on as possible. And something I've wanted to do for a long time, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a try. What else we got going on, guys? I heard from John Hamrick this morning. John's son Brody is got a little bit of a gift today. He's going in to work out with Augie Brody, who's from that area, from that Greenbrier area. That was one of the coaches. I believe he's the coach at Elizabethtown. But by kind of a stroke of luck, they have Deshaun Good is down in that area. And so Brody Hamrick, who's going to Fort Union in just a few short days, he'll be at Fort Union. And so they got to do, a workout with Coach Brody and then Brody Hamrick and then Deshaun Good. So those of you who don't know, Deshaun's from Fairmont, West Virginia, and he has played the game. I mean, almost as perfect as anybody that could play it. Spent a year at my mind's going to escape me here. Spent a year at one of the Horizon League, and was one of the top players in the Horizon. I think maybe even Rookie of the Year in the Horizon League. IU Indy, I think is what it is. And then he went to Robert Morris. And then and I should back up and say he spent a year at Fort Union as well, and had offers from New Orleans and somewhere else. I think they had a coaching change at New Orleans. So he switched gears and ended up going to IU Indy. And and like I said, went to Robert Morris, was killed it at Robert Morris last year, and then now he's at University of Miami, Florida. So pretty cool thing for him. That'll be a cool thing for Brody Hamrick down there today to get to work out with him and see what it's all about at that level. So pretty cool stuff. I love to hear stories like that. But his dad reached out this morning and told me, what was going on. Let's see. This weekend we have Blue Chips, of course, has the first ever middle school event that is down at Lincoln County High School. Again, thanks to those guys down there that's making that happen. It's sold out at 60 players, and Isaiah will be down there. He'll be heading down there this weekend, taking care of that. I will not be there, and I hate it. I would love to get down there and see all those kids, but I've traveled so much, and I'm scheduled to work this weekend, so I'm not going to be able to. And regardless, I wouldn't be able to do it. So anyway, that's a cool thing, and to just kind of go through a review of everything that we got going on this fall. September, we've got the team camp at Cabell Midland. If your team's not in it yet, get in there. That's going to be a good event. I'll be putting a prospect team again for the third year. I'll have a prospect team, a Blue Chips Global prospect team in the Anderson Court Fall League. I don't have dates for that yet because I still have to pick them out. Waiting back to hear from some other folks as far as what dates I should pick. But that's a cool thing. We had some guys that had coaches come and watch them last year. And that's really what I got it, really what I designed it for, because it's so close to short drive from Elkins, short drive from Wesleyan, short drive, from Fairmont State, Wheeling University. Let me see. And then you've got all the PAC schools, the Division III schools up, the Waynesburgs and Washington Jeffersons. We even had Coach Martello from Franciscan University in Steubenville, Ohio, come over to one of our games last year. Coaches from, I'm trying to think of who else, but just tons of guys that have come in there to watch guys, scout guys. It's an easy opportunity for them to come in on a Sunday and scout all of our guys and several other guys that play for Morgantown and Martinsburg and Parkersburg and, wherever it may be. So we'll have that team together. That's going to be a cool thing that we're going to have I believe, a really, really good group of guys to run through there on those dates. So it's 4 dates at Anderson Court. You play 2 games each time. So they get 8 games in. It's a cheap way for them to get up there, get in front of some coaches. It's like $20 for, to go up for a day and pay our coach and go up there and put a show on. So it's been every year that we've had it, like everything else, it's been a little bit more successful. And because people are kind of figuring it out now. So is what it is. That's and then we are going to have, lots of people have asked about this. A lot of folks that either couldn't make or didn't get an invite to the Hoop Summit have asked us, hey, please give us an invite to the next thing, or let us know when the next thing is. That next event like that, it's not exactly like that, but that next event will be what we call the West Virginia warm-up. That'll be at the Bridge. We've got the day. We are still working on the total itinerary. We want to give the northern part of the state an opportunity for middle school kids in the northern part of the state. Also an opportunity like we're giving them this weekend in Lincoln County. We want to give the middle school kids an opportunity to come in, boys and girls, to come in and and go through our event. It's a little more skill-based rather than 5-on-5 run, whereas the Hoop Summit is, almost wholly, it's just a 45-minute warm up and then 3 hours of 5-on-5 runs. But this is almost the complete opposite. It'll be, I won't say complete opposite, but 50-50. We'll be in there, I think maybe 3 hours. We'll, for 90 minutes, we'll do a good, hard workout. And for the guys that's been there, the high school guys, Coach Newsom will put the workout on. Trust me, you'll be tired. And it's a college level workout. It's real stuff. It's basketball stuff, but it's tough stuff. It really is. And I don't mean we're not doing 7-part, dribble combinations. That's not what I'm talking about. If you come in, you'll see when you get there. It's just basically ran like a college practice, and bam, you get an hour and a half of it, and then we'll turn around. We'll have some tired bodies and some guys that will have to kind of gut it out, push it through, and play some 5-on-5. So give you an idea of what maybe a day in one practice in one day of maybe a college program would be. Obviously, if you're in college, you're going to have 2 or 3 practices and not just the one. But so, like I said, we structure that a little differently. The only way that we would change things a little bit is if we have a huge influx of college coaches, which could be. They'll be in season by then, working their tails off, so they may not even be anybody available. However, it gives us a really, really good opportunity to see more guys that we haven't seen before. Gives us an opportunity to give a lot of feedback to kids. We were able to do that last year. We only had 25 kids. We didn't do. This isn't an event that we've ever really tried to push and open up and market real, wholesale. It's one of those that we've kind of kept, to ourselves, and we just invited certain kids to come in, let's work out. So it's a little bit different, but it's one of those things now, kind of like the cat's out of the bag. People know that we're having it, and they want to be a part of it, which is fine. That's fine. Now with Isaiah in the mix, we can be a little bit more organized with more kids. We can be, and we can kind of let it kind of blow itself up. You know what I mean? So I don't have any, that was a thing before. I didn't want things to snowball and get too big that I couldn't handle them on my own. But it'll be, we'll have a nice team of guys there working, hoping to hire a couple current college players to come in that day and work. And, so it's a fun, I don't say fun. It's fun for the players, but it's work. It's really, really work. So if that's something you're looking forward to, if you need a nice warm up to kind of get yourself, on track with the West Virginia season, which I think it might start the week after. John, you might know that. But anyway, that's what we're gonna have. What else? What else do we have? That's November. That'll be November 1st. After that, we have a lot of requests for people to partner with them on events. The guys at Potomac State have talked to us about doing something there. The guys at Concord, we've got the coaches at Musselman High School. It sounds like those of you that if you've been to Musselman High School, it sounds like they have an incredible basketball facility on campus, and that's, we wanted to do a fall event over there. It's not going to happen. We just can't. We just don't have, there's just not enough hours in a day, days in a week for 2 of us to make that happen. So, but we are going to take that in consideration for next year. Coach Lambros down at Huntington, he's invited us, to come, do anything that we wanted to do there. He's given us a open door and green light to do whatever we wanted to do there, which was very nice of him. I have a lot of respect for Coach Lambros, and he's one of the fine folks in the coaching fraternity in West Virginia. let's see, wrap up. There's something I'm forgetting, but I'll think of it afterwards, I'm sure. And and I want to remind everybody we are very, very close to the Substack is launched for both football and for girls basketball. Check those out. I guess I could post links on the timeline so everybody can find those. But anyway, Joe Albright will be head scout, writer, whatever we want to call him. He'll be the girls basketball guy for Blue Chips Global. I really hope there's support out there for it because I'm really excited for this. I feel like girls basketball in West Virginia is really a sleeping giant. I know I've talked to some of you about it. Like I want to help the girls basketball world in West Virginia. I hope we get the support to do that. There's no events for them. There's just, I don't even have, if a girls basketball coach called me from, Penn State Altoona, I wouldn't have any idea what to tell them. I really wouldn't, other than buy a subscription to the, our rivals, prephoops.com. I don't, I mean, you can look at the all-state teams. But we really, really, really need to work on lists, rankings, if you will. I call them lists that we can provide for these college coaches because they want to recruit here, but I know where those girls basketball, those women's basketball coaches at these, especially small colleges, they are so, I mean, they're so far out of the loop of what's going on in West Virginia, and it's not their fault. It was the same way when I started doing this in 2022. I quickly realized what the scope of this was. It was young coaches, 24, 25, 26 years old in their first coaching job, and they want to recruit West Virginia because they're from Virginia, or in a lot of cases, it would be a kid from PA who's got his first coaching job in the middle of nowhere in Virginia, and West Virginia is part of his recruiting territory, but he has no idea where to start. And I heard that story from probably a dozen guys, where they just didn't know where to start. And, they would go to the SSAC website and find out, well, that, a lot of that stuff on there wasn't accurate. They go to Max Preps, and it was kind of the same thing. It was partially accurate, but, it wasn't 100% accurate. So, it's tough. And so I kind of became that, that hub for them to come in and find names, just get names. And that's what that's all they wanted. It's funny to think that it could be that way with the amount of technology that's in the world right now, but it's where we are. So, I hope you can give us the support. Joe will work. He's already worked really, really hard, probably harder than what he needs to get. And he wants, because it'll be a subscribership over there as well. And, he's trying really hard to get a nice catalog of content to put up there for people to subscribe to. And we'll collaborate on trying to get rankings and lists. I would love to get 100 names in every class. I really, really would. That brings me to I'll make this is my last point, and I'll let everybody go here, and then I'm going to jump on with Dom, and we're going to do a podcast real quick. He'll be the first podcast that we do in the player podcast. I haven't had any. Mason Adamore, I take that back. He was the first. He was from California. He was the first and the only player podcast, I believe, as far as high school players. But anyway, I'll make one last point. And John, what I'm talking about because I've talked to you about this. People want to know. It's just like the girls' rankings, and it's the same thing. I could go tomorrow and go to Prep Hoops or whatever and get rankings and put them over here and say, these are the blue chips. I could do that tomorrow. However, I'm not going to do that. I don't have any affiliation. I don't have any inside anything with prephoops.com anymore. So, just let that be said. I don't use that for reference for anything, any rankings. I have no idea who's ranked what over there. I don't even know who's doing it. But point being is, when we build this girls rankings, it's going to be 1,000% organically. It's going to be from what we see, from what feedback we get from college coaches, from high school coaches, because that's what matters. That feedback is what matters. In the end, Scott's opinion or whoever, it doesn't matter as much as what the coach from XYZ University or ABC College, like that's what matters. So we use that feedback a lot, for rankings. And at the end of the day, guys, I don't want to say the rankings don't matter. They do matter, but it's not what coaches recruit off of. They want names. When somebody comes to us, give me 7 guys you think I need to look at, or give me the top 5 point guards that are over 6 foot. Like that's the kind of request I get. Give me 3 wings over 6'4". Like that's the type of request we get. So, your ranking matters, but at the same time, it's not the most significant thing. Your size, your athletic ability are going to be with a lot of people the most significant thing, not your ranking. So, and when I rank, when I've always the whole time, and this will be no different with Blue Chips, is when I rank, I'm ranking by who's the most recruitable. That's how I do it. I think that's the most subjective way to do it, because otherwise I'd be changing it every 2 weeks, because the next time that somebody has a really, really good AAU game where they score 32 points, well, they should bump up in the rank. Like that you can't. It's not sustainable. I can't, and nobody's going to take me serious if I do it that way. So I've been asked about in my the second part of that point, the 2030 rankings for the boys, which Coach Frazier's son is in, and will be one of those top guys. Like I've had, I don't know how many people, and it's weird that I've had that many people ask me about it. It's not weird that John's asked me about it, but it's weird that I've had probably a dozen people ask me when I'm going to put those out. And my response is I had to do that really, really early when I worked for prephoops.com. I don't have to do that now. And my reason is I would rather be accurate than early, if that makes sense. I can be early. The only thing early is going to do is, and maybe I'm a fool for doing it this way. The only thing early is going to do is grab a bunch of people's. That is a legit money grab. Like that's going to grab a bunch of people's attention, and we'll get a bunch of subscribers, and then a month later they'll all unsubscribe. When they see the rankings, and I don't, because that I can do that, but they're not going to be accurate. I can wait until January, February, maybe March, put out that first set of 2030 rankings after we've seen some guys play, some varsity, some things like that. We just need to see more there, because those of you like what happened in middle school, once you get to high school, it's so insignificant. It really means nothing. I mean, all of you probably know somebody that was an absolute superstar in middle school and they got to high school and they just could never get any better. They just couldn't get it done. It happens all the time, and it's not necessarily the kid's fault or anybody else's fault. It's just Mother Nature isn't going to allow. So just to let you know, like that's how I'm going to approach this. It's the only way I know how, and it's, for the sake of accuracy, that's what we're going to do, so because there will be, there will be times when there will be some other colleges that will reach out throughout the year and say, hey, give me the top 10 freshmen. I want to make sure I invite them to our camp this spring, or I want to make sure I I reach out to them, start building a relationship. That stuff does happen. So and I want to be accurate when I give them that list the first time. I want to be accurate. I don't want it to be based on what they did in middle school. I don't want to be based on just what they did at the hoop summit. I want some substance there. So, but I want to thank you all 11 of you that's in here. And we'll post this video here later on today. I'm going to hop off here and record with John. Marshall, I see you're still in here. We'll get a date. We've got a date set for you to record. So pretty exciting stuff. So much activity going on off the heels of that hoop summit. Some of it I've talked about, some of it I can't talk about quite yet, but so much exciting stuff. So awesome stuff. We'll come back tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.